Hello! Today we are doing our second round of anticipated reads for 2022. I always do my first one for a year in the November of the previous year. I do my second one in late February, early March, and I do my third one in July. So we're gonna try to do something a little differently with our picks for the day. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm going to give you the book that I'm interested in, and then I'm gonna give you like 3 things about it that intrigue me, or if I've already read it, like 3 items of my thought about it. And that way this will hopefully be, you know, pretty snappy, but I can tell you about some date changes, a few new books that I've encountered. This will be our refreshed second check-in. It looks like the latest release date I have is for October. So this will go from March to October for 2022. And yeah, anything else I need to tell you? I tend to read a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, romance, mystery, thriller, and nonfiction in front list. Those are most of the things you'll see here. All that to say, we're gonna try to make this one pretty quick, but hopefully informative. So we'll start with March and we'll go from there. Okay, on March 1st, we have Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. This is a contemporary small town romance, kind of friends to lover, more like platonic to non-platonic acquaintances to lovers, and really just well done character work alongside some pretty steamy scenes. So this one was really good. Also on the 1st is The Night Shift by Alex Finlay. This is a serial killer mystery thriller. There's also a big conspiracy element and the FBI is involved in that respect. I think that this one is really page-turnery and fun, but maybe not as different from Every Last Fear as I would have hoped. 3-8 is Stuck With You by Ali Hazelwood. I just love Ali Hazelwood's writing. I believe that this is a republish of existing fanfiction stuff she's done, but just changed. And it's in the first in a series of books that are gonna come out this year. Oh, sorry, I missed one on March 1st. Alice 6 by Olivia Blake. This is a major publisher release of a book talk phenomenon. I believe it's some sort of like sci-fi fantasy boarding school situation. And it sounds like it's lots of vibes, maybe not the best plot, but just fun. Going back to the 15th of March, which is a big release date, I've got several on this date. So first we've got The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. This is a dual timeline mystery thriller with a paranormal element. It also is a serial killer type trope, and there's also a true crime blog aspect. And if you've ever read anything from Simone St. James, you know that the character work and the writing is fantastic. This one is really good. I really liked it. Under Lock and Skeleton Key by Gigi Pandian also comes out on the 15th. This is a cozy mystery. The kind of setting for it is a family business where they build secret stairs and rooms. Our heroine is a disgraced magician who comes home, and on the first job site she goes to, they find a body in a secret room, which kicks everything off. Oh, and actually only one more in 315, and that is 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. This one sounds like a serial killer conspiracy type mystery thriller. I really like the sort of meta quality to the book that I read from Peter Swanson, so I'm hoping this also has that. And basically it's 9 people who are getting threatening letters and like what connects them. Then on the 29th, 3 more. We've got 10 Steps to Nanette by Hannah Gadsby. This is a nonfiction memoir that I thought was coming out a couple of years ago, but it seems like it got pushed back. So it is finally coming out. It is about Hannah Gadsby's big Netflix spectacular that was Nanette, and that was a really meaningful piece of work to me. So I'm excited to read sort of a memoir or nonfiction look at some of that material. Then we've got The Resting Place by Camilla Sten that comes out on the 29th, and this one is a mystery thriller. It is a work in translation. I believe it's already come out somewhere in Scandinavia, I forget which country, and the kind of setup is there's a woman who saw a crime take place, but because of her face blindness, she doesn't know who the killer is, and then they're coming back to terrorize her once more. And then the last book in March I wanted to mention is The Long Weekend by Gilly McMillan. And this one seems like it's a nicely close circle mystery thriller. It looks like it's getting compared to Ruth Ware and Lucy Foley, and even though I don't love Lucy Foley, her tropes always work well for me. So I'm intrigued. It's basically a bunch of people go away for a couples weekend. The women get there before the men, but maybe the men aren't coming and murderousness ensues. So it seems like my kind of tropes. So I'm hoping that one will also be one that works well for me. I think that does it for March. Moving into April, well, on the 5th, we've got another one in that Ali Hazelwood series that I was talking about that I'm anticipating called Below Zero. So again, contemporary romance adapted from Star Wars fan fiction that comes out on April 5th, and I'm just pretty close to being an auto buy on Ali Hazelwood at this point because her stuff just really works for me. Also on the 5th is To Marry and To Meddle by Martha Waters, and this is a historical romance, very light effervescent prose that reminds me a lot of what Tessa Dare does in historical romance, and it is a marriage of convenience trope. And then Portrait of a Thief by Grace Lee. This is a very buzzy thriller, and it is involving art theft and I believe a college student in like a heist ring of some kind. I think it has to do with maybe either art or artifacts from China and trying to steal them back. So it's getting a lot of buzz. I've got an arc. We'll see how I do with it. Then 2 on the 19th, one I've already read, Fevered Star by Rebecca Roanhorse, is the sequel to her epic fantasy series inspired by pre-Columbian South American culture. Basically, we're finding out what the fallout is from the thing that happened at the end of the first book. And while I don't think the pacing is as good as the first book, this one really was still hitting the spot for me, so I really enjoyed it. I hope other people will too. And then Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare. This is a contemporary paranormal rom-com kind of vibe, and it is 2 witches, and I think it's a hate to love is the trope. I love Jessica Clare / Ruby Dixon / Jill Miles / Jessica Sims. I just love what they do. This one I think should be fun. And then the last one is The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa, contemporary romance, sequel to a really good book called The Worst Best Man. And this is a fake dating at a wedding trope. Moving into May, we've got the third of that Ali Hazelwood series I mentioned. So Under One Roof comes out on the 3rd of May. We've already talked about that. Book Lovers by Emily Henry comes out also on the 3rd. I've started that arc but have not yet finished it as of this filming, and it is a contemporary romance. Emily Henry's writing is just really appealing. I think it connects with a lot of people. And this particular one seems like it's going to be kind of meta about romance tropes. The trope in this one being a small town, like big city people coming to the small town and falling in love kind of thing. Well, hi. Would it truly be an anticipated reads video for me if I didn't inevitably forget some that I had to pop back in and tell you about? In this case, I forgot an entire Post-its worth of updates. So start with a couple I missed in May. First of all, Breathless by Amy McCulloch. I have an arc of this, and it is a isolated close circle mystery, and it is, I believe, an isolated close circle mystery set, I think on Everest, but on some big climbing mountain, and there's a snow-in, somebody dies, they can't get off the mountain, someone else dies. You know me but at all, you know this is my thing. So that's on the 3rd, I'm anticipating that. I'm also on the 3rd anticipating The Agathas by Kathleen Glasgow and Liz Lawson, and this one had me just based on the premise, which includes that they're being inspired by Agatha Christie in terms of solving the mystery. So this is a small town YA mystery thriller. Apparently people have been going missing or dying, and they're gonna try to solve the mystery. But really the Agatha Christie hook is what got me on this one. Then we've got Set on You by Amy Lee. It is a contemporary romance with a fitness influencer. I can't remember if it's friends to lovers or fake dating, but basically she is getting with a guy she meets with at the gym, and I believe she is plus size. So lots of trope candy for me there. On the 17th is Something Wilder by Christina Lauren. It is a contemporary romance. I believe this one has sort of like an action adventure type setup where the heroine's father left her clues to go find a treasure or something. I don't know. I really like Christina Lauren's writing, so that is why I'm anticipating that one. Nightwork by Nora Roberts comes out on the 24th. This is her annual standalone thriller suspense book. I want to say that this has something to do with like thievery, but it doesn't matter because I just read every Nora Roberts release when they come out. So the premise for this one is somewhat immaterial. And then the last one for May is Hide by Kirsten White. This is her adult thriller debut. I think it's sort of like horror thriller. It's got a very high premise, being that a bunch of people have to survive staying in an abandoned amusement park to win a prize, but then people start dying and we go from there. So this one seems really fun. And then let's move into June. Not that much in June. So on the 7th, I have The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentile. This one is a locked room type mystery set at, I think it's the Boston Public Library. Somebody dies, other people were in the reading room with them when they died, got to figure out who done it. This one's getting a lot of good buzz. Then we've got A Dance of Smoke and Steel by Mila Vane on the 28th. And this is the third book in her fantasy romance series. Really like the world. I probably wouldn't recommend people start with this one. Go back and read the first in this series, but it's basically a barbarian fantasy romance. You're into some pretty out there elements of the story. Then I think that this could be one for you. I really like Mila Vane's writing. Then also on the 28th, we have Rogues, True Stories of Grifters, Killers, Rebels, and Crooks by Patrick Keefe. He has written several really well-received nonfiction books. This one seems to be about sort of the history of grifting, which is something that really appeals to me. So this is one that I am looking forward to on audio. Similarly, there is one called Bi, The Hidden Culture, History, and Science of Bisexuality by Julia Shaw that comes out on the 28th of June. That's exactly the kind of nonfiction, sort of like sociological nonfiction that I enjoy. So I think that that one also sounds very intriguing. On June 28th, we have American Royalty by Tracy Livesay. This is a contemporary romance inspired by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, apparently. And in this case, it is an American, I think, singer or rapper is the heroine, and then British Prince or Duke or something is the hero. I've been meaning to try Tracy Livesay, so intrigued there. Moving into July, somehow I missed the Ruth Ware that's coming out this year. The It Girl by Ruth Ware comes out on July 12th, and this is one where there was a mystery or a killing in the past. The second term at university, in this friend group, one of their friends dies. Somebody goes away for it, but now 10 years later, they're sort of revisiting that incident. And Ruth Ware, I think trope-wise, is the closest very popular mystery author to what I like to read. So I'm always intrigued now with her new releases. Then on the 12th also we have Bet on It by Jody Slaughter, which is a small town contemporary romance with gal from the big city home temporarily to visit her family, falls in love with someone at bingo with her grandma. And I believe that this is an interracial romance if I'm remembering rightly. And then the last one for July is on the 26th, which is Storm Echo by Nalini Singh. It's the latest Psy Changeling book. Need I say more? I am doing a whole podcast about Psy Changeling, so I just read every single one of these that come out. But basically this is a sci-fi urban fantasy type romance, and they are just super great. Then we get into August, and we have got a lot coming out in August. Okay, first of all, we have Quarter to Midnight by Karen Rose, which is the latest in her long-running romantic suspense series. This one, I believe, is a private investigator and is the heroine and the hero's dad knew too much and got killed in the mystery she's trying to solve, and that's what brings them together. So I love the way she does romantic suspense, and those are tropes that I like. Then we've got These Fleeting Shadows by Kate Alice Marshall coming out on August 9th. This is another one where the premise just sounds really delicious. So there is a wealthy family whose daughter / the granddaughter have sort of been cut off, but then when the granddad dies, he leaves everything to the granddaughter on the condition that she come and live on the grounds for a year or else she doesn't get anything. And it's like a house full of secrets. So great premise, my kind of premise. And I've also seen early buzz that's pretty good on this one. Then we've got Stay Awake by Megan Golden coming out on the 9th. I have previously read and really enjoyed Megan Golden's writing in the past. Like, I like her actual prose in particular. This one is a mystery thriller where the main character wakes up. She doesn't remember how she got into the cab. When it drops her off at her house, somebody else lives where she thought she lived, and she has no clues on what's going on except that it says stay awake, I think, on her arm. So high premise, sounds just like fun, my kind of book. On the 9th also is The Monsters We Defy by Leslie Penelope, and I'm actually just going to read you the tagline because this is what sold me. It says, a woman able to communicate with spirits must assemble a ragtag crew to pull off a daring heist to save her community in this timely and dazzling historical fantasy that weaves together African American folk folk magic, history, and romance. It's set in DC in the 1920s. That just seems like fun. And then we've got 3 books on the 23rd that I'm very excited about. All of these are authors I love. So first of all, we have Love on the Brain by Ali Hazelwood. This is the 4th Ali Hazelwood book on this list if you are keeping track. And yes, I have already read this book and loved it. It is very similar to The Love Hypothesis. If you like that book, I think you will also like this one. In this case, it's sort of like enemies to lovers, but really it's like the Darcy Elizabeth version of enemies to lovers, where Lizzie is just like not clued in on Darcy's feelings at all. It's that kind of trope. So not as good as The Love Hypothesis, but still very satisfying. Ruby Fever by Ilona Andrews comes out on the 23rd. This is the 3rd in the 2nd trilogy of the Hidden Legacy series, the 6th book overall. Don't start with this book. Go back to Burn for me. Start from there. But Ilona Andrews is my favorite currently writing author, so excited for that. And then Babel by R.F. Kuang also comes out on the 23rd. This is high fantasy in Oxford, or an Oxford-like setting, and I just love her writing. This should be great. And then 2 sequels on the 30th. So first of all, we have Amari and the Great Game by B.B. Alston. Really love Amari and the Night Brothers in 2021. That one was just such a lovely middle grade fantasy, interesting world building, good character work, and great themes. I think it leaves off in a very intriguing place, so for those of you excited for that plot to continue, I am also excited. And then The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes is the finale in a trilogy that is a YA mystery thriller type series she's had going. The first 2 books were big hits, and I'm saving up the 2nd book for when this comes out so that I can binge read both of them. Then 2 books in September. First of all, we have Desperation in Death. It is the next entry in the In Death series by J.D. Robb. I think that this is like the 56th book in that series. Don't start with this book. Go back to the beginning, or I forget which one I said. One of the 2 books that came out last year, the book that came out in September of last year, I think could be a place to try one if you want to get a sense of what it's like without having to fully commit, but it's a long running series. So also on the 6th is The Weight of Blood by Tiffany D. Jackson. Really like her actual writing, and apparently this is her version of a Carrie type story. So if you're into a YA horror version of Carrie, that's what this apparently is. I am definitely intrigued. I'll see what the news is about it once we get closer, and I'll decide from there if I'm gonna read it. On the 20th of September, we have Well Traveled by Jen DeLuca. This is a contemporary romance set around a Ren fair. We are leaving the town that we've been in, I believe, for this 4th book, and it is going to be with the cousin of the hero in the 3rd book and the bandmate of the hero in the 2nd book. So we'll see how that goes. And then finally, we've got 4 in October I wanted to mention. First, we have Up to No Good by Rosie Dannon. I don't think there's even a description of this one yet, but I really liked the intimacy experiment, so I will keep my eye on Up to No Good in case it's a trope combo that sounds good to me. Blitz by Daniel O'Malley also comes out on the 4th, and that is the 3rd book in a urban fantasy type series, or like urban steampunky fantasy type series. First book in that series is one of my all-time favorites. The 2nd book wasn't as good. I'm excited to see how we do with the 3rd. Last jumping in, we have Pretty Dead Queens by my friend Alexa Dunn. I am so excited for this. She was inspired apparently by Murder, She Wrote. And if you guys know me but at all, you know that that was basically enough for me. But this is a YA mystery thriller, and the other kind of hook buzzy thing is that it's secrets from the past. Homecoming queen is killed. Has this been happening for a while? Small town secrets, etc. I think this sounds like a ton of fun. I have an early copy already. I should probably just go ahead and read it. And then finally on the 4th is Station Eternity by Mur Lafferty. This is a sci-fi whodunit. I really liked her sci-fi whodunit called Six Wakes, and the setup of this one is basically the equivalent of somebody like a Jessica Fletcher or a Miss Marple, where there's death wherever they go, and our main character is trying to go to this remote space station to get away from all the death, but the death finds them anyway. So I'm intrigued by that. And then finally, I've got Silverborn by Jessica Townsend. That comes out on the 13th of October, and that is the 4th book in the Nevermore series, or the Morrigan Crow series, which is just a really fun, very well-written, middle-grade fantasy series that I'm always happy when a new entry in the series comes out, and I really like this one as audio, so I will pick this up as audio. And yeah, I think those are all of the books I wanted to cover, and hopefully this was a decent format to kind of get through it a little quicker. Let me know what books you are excited about that are coming out sometime during 2022. With the pandemic supply chain issues, we continue to have like some slipperiness on dates. So I will keep you posted in July on how the rest of the year is looking. But for now, I think that covers us. And yeah, I think that will do it for me. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, follow me on the social medias if you are so inclined. I have all that information listed in the description box below, and I think that will do it. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day today, and I will just talk to you soon. Bye!